6 o'clock has arrived.
So he's
Trying
heading
to-
on to Boston with his girlfriend. I think he's doing all right. He just turned down the job at M1, so he's at least.
All right, good evening. It is 6 PM on November 13th. We're going to call the meeting to, the Master Plan Steering Committee meeting to order at 6 PM. With that, Tyler, could you give me a roll call?
Absolutely. In attendance tonight, we have Counselor Eric Hoffman, Patrick Wood, Chair Rob Mora. We have John McArdle joining us as well, and Jennifer, is it Ulrich or Ulrich?
Ulrich.
Ulrich, you got it. And then I am Tyler Carmichael, Assistant Planner. I'll be the staff member for this meeting, and Scott Pelchat will be taking our minutes.
Awesome, thank you.
Oh, we're also joined at the table by Steve Whitman and Crystal Kidd from Resilience Planning. No problem.
All right, with that, first on the agenda is the acceptance of the minutes from the previous meeting, which was our kickoff meeting. Those were in the packet that was emailed out to everybody. Has everybody had a chance to review those? Questions, comments, concerns?
Too detailed.
Too detailed. Sometimes details matter.
Move to accept.
All right. With no requested changes, we'll consider those accepted as presented. And so with that, I thought it would be kind of nice if we just went around the table and kind of introduced ourselves and gave a quick little history of who we are, what we've done, just to kind of break the ice and get us moving forward. So I'll start. I'm Rob Moore. I'm the planning director. I've been at the city for 2 years. Before that, I worked for the state. I was the planner for the New Hampshire National Guard. And prior to that, I was here as the assistant planner for 5 years. I grew up in Laconia. I moved away for a number of years while I was in the Air Force, and I came back in 2014 and have been here ever since. And I absolutely love it. I look forward to completing this master plan. I think there's a lot of great potential in Laconia that we're about to untap. So with that, I don't know who wants to go next.
Eric Hoffman, Ward 3 City Councilor. I've been an HVAC engineer for over 20 years. I was a big proponent for the master planning process, so when this committee was formed, I put myself on it. And here we are.
You also sit on the zoning board.
I am on the zoning board, that's correct. Yes.
And, all right, I'm Patrick Wood, general pot stirrer, par excellent. Retired attorney. I've lived here in Laconia since, I was trying to think, almost 50 years. Been in New Hampshire over 50 years. I've worked at 2 different law offices and then opened up my own firm. And I have, Laconia is more than a home. It's the place where I raised my family, and 3 of my kids fortunately are still here, which is great, and grandchildren. So the future of Laconia is, very important to me, not necessarily just for me, but for my kids and my grandkids. So.
Awesome, thank you.
My name is John McArdle. I moved to Laconia in, I think, 2021,
About that?
thereabouts. I spent 6 years in the Navy submarine force, and I worked for an engineering company in Boston where we constructed nuclear plants, and I worked in emergency planning and preparedness. I worked in that industry for 21 years, and then I was appointed fire chief in the town of Plasto, which I served for 18 years. Retired now, and somebody asked me to join this committee for some reason I don't know, but here I am.
I asked you to join.
I was going to put blame anyway.
That's exactly right.
Hi there, my name is Jennifer Ulrich. I was also coerced by the pot stirrer over here to my father-in-law, Patrick Wood, to join the committee. I am not originally from here. I am from Georgia, but I moved to Boston to do grad school at BU and met my husband there. And he's from Laconia and decided after law school he needed to move back here and work with his father. And so here we are. But I really love it here. I work from home. I work for a healthcare IT company based out of Boston, Athena Health. I'm in client services. And I have 2 boys, a teenager as of Sunday, so send to help. That's a new adventure. But they're in the Laconia school system. I made a joke when I came in. I was on the school board for a 3-year stint, 21 through 24. And yeah, nice to meet you all. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Welcome.
Welcome. Charlie, do you want to do a little intro?
Hi, everybody. I'm here because I want to be, and I don't think anybody asked me. I don't recall. Did I demand to be on this? I don't remember.
I thought you asked to be on this when we were at planning board.
Yeah,
I think
you
I
did.
did, yeah, I think I did.
Be careful
So,
how you answer
so
that.
Pat didn't,
Coerce you?
I did not.
No coercion there.
No.
Steve, do you want to do a little intro?
Yeah, happily. Steve Whitman. So we met at the kickoff meeting, the joint meeting. I was saying to Crystal as we walked into City Hall, I'm like, the first time I walked into City Hall, I was 24 years old. I worked for Lakes Region Planning. That was almost 30 years ago.
I was just gonna say, a couple years
It was
ago.
a couple years, yeah. So I'm excited to be here. I live up in Plymouth. We run our office out of Plymouth, the 4 of us. We do a lot of master planning in communities all over, so it's always kind of a treat when we're within half an hour of home. So we're really excited. Having gotten to know Rob and Tyler before this project and talked about housing and other things in the city, just to see where you're at now and the work that we'll share with you tonight that we've started to get into. Just getting to learn about the city in 2025, 2026 has been really interesting. And we did a tour before we did the joint meeting with all of you, and that was entertaining, but incredibly informative, because I had no idea the scope of some of the projects that you've seen in recent years, and so it was really helpful to go around and see those with the staff.
Awesome.
And you?
And hi, I'm Crystal Kidd. I'm a planner with Resilience Planning and Design. I've been with the firm for about 3.5 years now. I'm originally from Rhode Island, but I came up to New Hampshire because I attended Plymouth State, and I graduated in 2020. And I don't feel the same about Rhode Island. I may have grew up there, but it's not really my home anymore. So I absolutely love being in New Hampshire, working up here. I live in Bridgewater now. So it's great to be able to be close and work in a new city.
Awesome. Tyler, why don't you give us an intro?
Sure thing. I'm Tyler Carmichael. I'm the assistant planner here at the City of Laconia. I'm originally from Florida. I grew up there, down in the Tampa Bay area. Went to college in Orlando. Studied in political science and pre-law. So now I'm writing a bunch of zoning ordinances for Rob on the cheap.
Lawyer light right there.
Right.
I know nothing.
I moved up here right before COVID, about 2 weeks actually before the shutdown, so it was great timing on my part. But I've loved it ever since, fell in love, and I honestly consider this my home now. I love Laconia, this community. I'm here all the time, whether I'm working or having fun, visiting friends, family that live here. So, yeah, and I'm excited to be a part of this group, planning the future. So.
Awesome.
I do have a nickname for the 2 of you too, which I've said. It's Ring and Ling, the Sorry.
All right, with that, Steve, I might just turn it right over to you and let you kind of run through it.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I think what Crystal and I are hoping to do is to take a step back, go over some of the materials that we shared broadly at the joint meeting, but to give you a little bit more time to ask questions as committee members. Partly about what your role is, partly just to make sure you're understanding the process that we've laid out and like where we are in the process now. Before we get started tonight, we were talking a little bit about meeting commitments and upcoming meetings, and we'll be wanting to get into those details. And Tyler pointed out that we're not going to meet with you all in December because the holidays and things are coming up, and we're just trying to get it scheduled is challenging. But when we meet with you again in January, it's going to feel like we've really jumped pretty far into the project. And so we didn't want you to go from October to January and feel like you're in the deep end of the pool. So I want to give you a sense of what we're working on, give you a chance to ask questions, and then have you have a sense of what's coming your way after the holidays, as far as draft materials and things we're going to want to talk about in January, so you feel prepared. So that's kind of what we're going to do. We don't have a presentation for this meeting, and we don't have anyone zooming in. We did have a team meeting on Monday, with the other consultants, both to review and provide feedback on some of their work, to make sure that they didn't have any questions for you tonight and that they didn't have a need to zoom in. But they are planning on joining us, at least via Zoom, in January. Both to be on as a resource, to answer questions that may have come up, that may be parts that they're contributing to the plan, and to kind of hear what you all have to share. So that's just kind of a broad overview. We also will not keep you here for 3 hours. I think some of this is review, some of this we're going to provide a little bit more detail. And part of it is also just to continue to let the community see that you're starting this process, you're in early days. We have heard from a couple people, and Crystal will share updates on that, and for people to see what's coming. So, as far as review of project phases and timeline, there's this handout that you might recall from the joint meeting. And I'm going to speak to that just for a couple minutes and hit my arm or interrupt me if I miss something. But we wanted to give you a sense of an overview again of the planning process, these kind of 3 circles here, like the major phases of the project, and we try and keep it as simple as possible. We're in phase 1 now. We basically started phase 1 right after that meeting on October 6th. And phase 1 is where we are doing as deep a dive as we can on current conditions. Crystal, with the help of Tyler and Rob, had pulled together all the documentation she could related to Laconia. It's a blessing and a curse that you don't have a ton of other plans, because there aren't a lot of other plans we have to weed through, and you have to say to us, no, that doesn't relate anymore. So we've been able to see what you do have that's relevant and share that within our team, and then where there are gaps and where we need to go look for other information, or maybe where there's some work to be done in the future to help the city. So phase 1 is really where we get up to speed on many of the things you know. And they may be things that you just intuitively know, and you need some data to support what you know, and there may be some surprises for you as well. So we are going to continue that analysis, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more. We'll continue that analysis basically into 2026. This will give us the foundation of understanding that we need to then go out and engage the public in 2026. And then it also will provide both the facts and the context for us when we go to tell the story of Laconia's future in the actual master plan later on in 2026. That phase 3, that create the plan, it's hard to make it really sound like Laconia when you write the plan if you don't understand what it is that's the foundational data and what you've heard from the public, and then what you all as a group are going to help us decide are the right steps forward. And we're really going to use you as that kind of filter. You're going to also help us make sure that we're right-sizing solutions for Laconia. There may be things that we're going to bring that you'll find are a challenge and say, but yeah, it's just not a good fit. But we're going to give you options. I mean, that's our role in this, is to both inform you and maybe push you a little bit, and you're going to tell us if we've pushed too far, and at the end, it's your plan. It's City of Laconia plan. It's not a Crystal and Steve plan. So we're here to really be that staff extension and for you to kind of help guide it. So the 3, analyze, envision, create, those are the 3 phases. Fall, winter, for the existing conditions, will really be into draft material in January. Basically, February, March into April could be public outreach for Envision. And then we want to spend summer and fall writing, formatting, and refining the plan with you. So to give you a sense of your timeline, it's kind of a year commitment from your kickoff meeting, your joint meeting. It's a little bit tight for a lot of master plans, but I think here where you have restricted the number of topics we're focused on, and they relate to each other so much, it's not a problem. So I'm gonna pause there for a second, just to see, with that information, if you guys have had thoughts since the joint meeting, or if you have general questions on things you heard tonight, we'd love to answer your questions.
I do, of course,
Please.
have questions. Rob sent out a copy of the capital improvement requests. I don't think that's been adopted yet, has it? Or
No,
is it?
that'll go to planning board on December 3rd, December 2nd, yeah.
Which was helpful to see what the different departments were asking for. I also have talked to Rob and Tyler about getting data about where things are in the city, and I understand you're gathering that,
Yeah.
such as where the sewer currently exists, where water lines exist, or how far they are, what isn't covered, what is covered. And where's the land that would be available for different types of development. And I think that type of information is really going to be critical for us to analyze where we are and where we can go over the next 10 or 15 years. And I don't know what the time frame is normally with a master plan, but I would think we're looking at least 10 or 15 years. And obviously, things are going to change in the meantime. The other thing that I think we need to at least get out here for discussion is, for many months, the city's been working with a consulting firm to help update the impact fee program. And there's a 94-page impact fee report that has been presented to the city council, and there's a public hearing on that. So
December 8th.
December 8th,
Yeah.
right. So I think it would be helpful from my perspective, and I think the other members of the committee, to hear from the planning office what that impact fee plan implementation situation is, and give us a little background on that. So, I mean, from my perspective, those are some of the questions I have. I don't know what we've done with the schools, how they're involved in this, but I'm not sure what your plans are as far as dealing with the schools and getting information from them. But as you heard, I think at our meeting, one of the big concerns is if we don't make sure our education system is up to standard, up to snuff, all of the rest of this isn't going to get us any far.
Sure.
So, those are my thoughts.
Yeah. Tyler, do you want to give a little
On
summary
impact fees?
on impact fees? Yeah.
Sure. So how far back do you want me to go?
Why don't you just do the quick highlights of
Yeah.
when the last study was done?
Yep.
Where we're at
gotcha.
now, and kind of the process we went through with
get here.
DTA to get where we are today.
Certainly. So our last study was done, I think, between 2007. It definitely was finished in 2009. It wasn't adopted by Planning Board and City Council until 2011. That initial study, yes.
Even before we do that, some people may not know what an impact fee is. So
Sure.
why don't you start
So
with that first?
an impact fee is basically an assessment on incoming development that's been approved in the city to help the city offset the costs to support that development. So in other words, it's shifting the burden from the taxpayer to the developer to basically contribute to expanding roads, sewer, out to those developments. That way the city is not bearing all the cost.
And also the increase in services that might be needed, such
Yes.
as substations for police or
Yep.
fire, or new
Even the
classrooms
library.
for, or a
Wider
library.
highway or
Yep.
whatever, right?
Yep. So with that, and state law outlines what we can and can't use impact fees for and all that good stuff. So with that, we had a new study done, since it's been so long since our last study was done. I mean, so it's been over 16 years. Initially, when that first study was done, City Council adopted it in 2011 at 25% of the rate needed to cover the impact that development was going to have on the city. They didn't increase that until 2022, when it increased from 25% to 50% of those rates established in 2009. So in discussions with city councilors, it became apparent that, we needed to go out and get new data, because a lot's changed over the last 16 years. So we put out an RFP back in, I think it was last July. We had two people respond to that. We ended up selecting DTA to basically perform the study for us. We started that contract, I think, back in October of last year. And over that basically year-long process, we had facilitated interviews between the contractor and department heads, site visits. We'd gathered data for building permits, certificates of occupancy that have been issued, I think, going back 3 or 4 years, as well as running projections for future development based on approvals that were granted by the planning board and ZBA and such. So overall this time, they ran their models and cranked out the numbers, and they submitted their final report in September. That went to planning board for 2 public hearings. They just recently recommended at their meeting, I think it was here in November, to forward. Was it October?
Or was it?
No, I think it was November.
It was November.
It was the November meeting. They had their second public hearing, voted unanimously to recommend basically adopting the new report starting at 50% of the current rate, so as not to have such a huge jump. And then with that, there will be increases annually based off of CPI until we reach that maximum impact fee every year. With that, we've written the language as such, so that way it automatically increases. City council is more than able to go back and amend that if they so choose. But we figured we didn't want to get in the same hole that we were at prior, where it just stays the same.
It's the increases plus the CPI.
Yep, so
Yes, yeah.
it would bring you up 5% each year till it hit that maximum rate, but each year it also increases to match the CPI.
And once you hit the maximum, it's just CPI.
So from 25% to 30, 35, 40, 45, that,
All the way, all the
Yep.
way till it reaches the
we get
100%.
to 100%.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we're at 50% now, not at 25, but
Yep,
it's
and
gonna get 50, right?
And the other change, because state law had changed several times in between when our last study was done and we adopted our ordinance, we were not collecting impact fees for municipal buildings and then state law just recently changed to allow you to collect impact fees for public works facilities.
Yep.
And it also allows you to use impact fees for bond payments, which we had not adopted previously. So with this updated language, we added all the bells and whistles and that we were allowed to by state law, so that currently there's been a lot of discussion about the public works facility and that they need a replacement. This gives us the opportunity to use impact fees, and then if they did a bond for whatever they wanted to do,
Right.
but they could use those impact fees for those bond payments as well. So we really tried to think of
We wanted to get
any tool we could utilize
Yeah.
and make sure that we at least had the option for it.
Yep, I think the key to that was giving the city council flexibility
Yep.
in making those decisions on how they wanted to use those impact fees. So that was key to us.
Okay.
So the language has been approved by legal, they're good with it, planning board's good with it, now it's just in city council's hand. They're gonna have a public hearing, like you said, December 8th,
December 8th,
Yep.
yeah.
and then possibly adoption that same night, so. And that's where we are with that.
Okay,
Yeah, and as
thank
far
you.
as, the back half of your question was, so we are already working with Steve and his group we have interviews scheduled with every department head, including schools, to talk about their facility needs and their needs moving forward. So we are working on that, and that's part of our community facilities chapter, so we're already forging the path ahead.
Yeah, and then one of my questions related to what Pat shared is about the infrastructure, the location. So I think, was that part of some of the map files that you had available that Eric probably
Yes.
has now?
Yes, I think we were able to pretty much get you everything for sewer, drainage, roads.
Great.
The only one that we have to be a little careful of is the water lines, just because that's a security thing. So we'll have to work with Ben on what
Ben,
we can and can't use. So
Even if we could just show the area that's served by it
Right.
would be
Yeah.
fine?
Perfect.
And I think that's what they did with the I think that's what they did with the
think they
last
did,
master
too.
plan as well.
That's fine. And I'll circle back to that, Pat, when we talk a little bit more about existing conditions. I have a couple things I can share from Eric.
Okay.
Awesome.
I had a few things. So obviously, housing's a big part of this.
Yes.
I think a lot of people are gonna be really curious about that part of the report, so I guess I'm just wondering about the specificity that the report is going to have, because I think what people really wanna know is, where are we at as far as categories of housing? Where do we wanna be? And then if we're going from point A to point B, where in the city are we going to do that, right? I think I wanna know these things. I think most people in the community wanna know these things, so I guess I'm wondering, is the report gonna have that level of specificity? And I think the other question I had was, I know we're talking about redoing our zoning ordinances, and obviously that has to kind of run lockstep with this process, so how does that work as well?
Can I ask a follow-up question from you? When you say you want to know what types exist, are you talking about the unit types, or are you talking about prices of units, or
Yes.
both?
Both.
Yeah, okay. So yes, we've seen some initial findings from RKG for our meeting on Monday, and they have a sense of the unit split. You have a lot more single-family units than I picture. So that was interesting to me, because I'm not going to, unless I'm on a tour with Rob and Tyler, I'm not going to a lot of those neighborhoods. So they have a sense of that, and they have a sense of price, and we can talk about that within the housing section. So those are things we can do. And then I'll circle back to the kind of how it can inform zoning. It's kind of related to what Patrick was talking about. So yes,
Right.
yes, and yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Rob. I understand where Eric's coming from on that. When you look into housing and all that stuff,
Yeah.
I hope you'll consider, somehow, it's probably gonna be very hard to do, but for Laconia not to lose the charm it has as a, as a lake city on the lakes, and what so many people come here for, tourism. People aren't gonna wanna come here to see what they see probably in other cities that aren't geared to the tourism that is so important to us. And the other question I had, or comment, is that there was a survey that was just released, I heard it on NPR, or New Hampshire radio, about, the survey was taken, I think, people between the age of 21 and probably 35, or they're in their 30s. Would they want to stay in New Hampshire, or what were their drawbacks for staying in New Hampshire? And they, I don't have all this stuff now, it'd be easy to find, but the one that's stuck in my mind, no surprise, would be lack of public transportation. So that is just something to think. I think the other thing too,
I don't know if it was hit by you.
I think the other thing, Pat, and I think you'll appreciate this, was also, they talked about schools in the state. And the situation with public schools and stuff like that, so I just wanted to throw that out there.
That's really helpful, Charlie.
Kind of,
I guess
Kind of
along those
dwell on that.
lines is that Laconia is, it's technically a city, but it's really a collection of neighborhoods, right? So everybody kind of falls in love with their own little neighborhood and doesn't want that to change, right? Even though the city has needs and we need housing and we need to make some changes, every little neighborhood is full of people that want it to stay exactly how it is. So I think that's the big challenge when it comes to housing and development.
or design. That, to me, that's the big thing. It's not so much that we don't want change, we can't go along change. It's just the design of, do we want something that sticks out like a sore thumb, or something that's gonna blend in with the neighborhood? You can add housing units, but even tall ones, as long as they kind of blend in, or they're in that right
Right.
neighborhood.
Well, identifying which neighborhoods would be the right neighborhoods for that type of a development is gonna be.
Whatever the development is.
Right, right.
I do want to just hit on that, because I think it's very important, that Laconia definitely does have 3 key villages, and they all have their distinct little quirks about them, and, yeah, that's a good way of putting it, I think. But there's a distinct feel to each of them.
Right.
And I think it's gonna be very important that we keep that feel. And maybe it's, a rezoning to make them a true, like a downtown or a Lakeport and the Weirs to preserve, and maybe it's, in a future zoning ordinance, having, maybe some zoning that helps emphasize to maintain a certain character.
I think the way you're sharing your concerns and your desires right now is the perfect level of scale. Like, if on our first meeting together we could solve it all, it would be great. We just invoice you for the amount and be gone. But there's a tendency when you have people as such as yourselves that are so involved to want to get to that solution phase right away. And if you're comfortable continuing just to share, it helps us know what kind of information you're going to need and what kinds of things we have to keep our eyes on as solutions. So it's likely that you're going to hear us use some of your words as we go forward, because to show we're listening to you, but that you may also continue to echo what each other are saying. And I would say, John, I think you took some time to put a lot of ideas together, right?
I did.
And I appreciated that, and we've shared that with the team. I don't know if there any of that you want to touch on tonight, but that was helpful for us to receive.
That's up to the group. You know, after we left the first kickoff meeting, I just sat down and I started, because I'm new to the area, you know, as I said, 2021. I came from a town of 7,800 people, and I just started looking a little more deeper into Laconia, things that are available online. And, you know, a couple of things that struck me is that the population really hasn't increased by more than like 3,000, 3,500 people in 50 years. And a lot of the discussion that we engaged in at the kickoff meeting, I think would gear towards moving that population up. But as Pat had said before, there are a lot of moving parts that you have to solve to get to that point.
Right.
You know, how do you attract people to come here? I think Charlie, you're absolutely right. You want to keep the tourism aspect while you still have your full-time residents here. You look at some neighborhoods, you've got 50% of those neighborhoods may have people that are there 100% of the time. The rest are vacant, maybe weekends only or whatever.
Right, and you talk about our population only increasing 3,000 or whatever it is, but never forget that in the summer,
Oh, absolutely.
that it,
Right.
You have an increase.
Much bigger.
well,
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
like
we
triples,
go from-
you know, it triples, and that has an effect on everything.
So, and I understand that. In the town of Plastow, we were the largest town of our school district. We had four towns in a school district. And every day from basically September through June, our population went up by another 3,000-4,000 people. And those were all students in the schools. And we were the only town that had a robust shopping area going down Route 125, and again, the same thing. And we ate all of that, you know, that the town had to absorb all of the cost of that. I know you understand what I'm talking about. As opposed to the other smaller towns, they said, oh, shoot, we're not gonna, you know, build a Walmart because we can go over to Plastow. So I understand how Laconia is positioned with the other communities around us, that we do have a lot of the things that people are gonna be drawn to and not put on themselves. And the other aspect is I think we've got an aging population here. People are aging in place here, they don't wanna move away.
Very true.
That's kind of unique in that aspect. So, that paper wasn't to throw rocks at anybody, it was just a matter of, I started thinking about one thing and I'd go down that rabbit hole and find another one to go into and come up with other things. It wasn't meant to cast aspersions anywhere. It's just things that I found out that were publicly available.
That was helpful. It was a nice brainstorm. It's interesting on the population side, that was one of the other places we talked about on Monday. Not surprising, a lot of your population growth has been people over 55. But there's also another subset of like family rearing age adults, like late 20s to 40, that you actually have increased quite a bit too. And on the school age kids, you're doing better than some communities. And that, we don't see that everywhere in New Hampshire. So there's something going on there. And the fact that you have so many people coming into the city to work on a daily basis, and you do have more housing options than many Lakes Region communities, probably is contributing to that. But we're trying to figure that out a little bit more too. So
There's
it was good to
also
see.
substantial economic disparity in the community.
Yes.
And that has both a positive and a negative impact on the community.
Yep.
I was gonna say, I think there's a lack of a certain kind of job keeps a certain age group out of the city. I'm not sure how much the master plan is gonna get into economics or developing jobs or things like that, but I think, you know, we need more jobs in the area that require skilled workers and educated workers, and, you know, not everybody can work at Walmart or,
That's right. Well, one of the things we heard last night at this community event on homelessness, a young homeless man who's working full-time cannot afford to rent an apartment here in Laconia, even though he's working full-time. So when we talk about bringing in jobs, we need to look at jobs that are more than paying $10 or $12 an hour. We need to be looking at jobs that are really paying a living wage. And how do we do that? What would be needed from an infrastructure point of view to make that possible? What would be needed from a school, education thing? What would be needed from government services? You know, I mean, all of those things are critical for our planning in the future. If we're gonna really plan the master, what are we gonna do for that? So,
Yeah, and I would just add to that, housing solutions, and in many communities in New Hampshire who are running into the same situation you just explained for that individual, and we're hearing this in Lebanon, we've heard it in the Seacoast, people are talking about shared accommodation living. Like, okay, I need a way to get on my feet. All I want is to rent a room and have access to a kitchen. And we heard from people in public outreach in Lebanon about situations that did exist. And then when they kind of fell apart and there was no way to recreate it, those individuals, including like, you know, single parent, who actually had a support system within the home that she was renting a room and found it really was favorable, she got pushed out of the city. So some communities are starting to look at formalizing the zoning to allow for it in a way where you can guarantee that people are gonna be living in safe, you know, accommodations, but it's a different price point than $1,900 a month for an
well,
apartment.
that's right. And one of the other things that was pointed out is, you know, children living, you know, in unhoused situations. You know, the requirements that we should be looking at there for their safety and security are totally different than they would be for an adult.
Yeah.
And,
First of all, sorry I was late. I thought sure we started at 6:30. Otherwise, I could have been here sooner. What I want to get at is, we've talked about demographics and population change. Can we get a count of dwelling units that we had 50, 40 years ago compared to now? Because we built an awful lot of stock, which is vacant a lot of the time.
Yeah, I don't know how far back we can go, but we can try to get a sense. They've been helping us for the last 5 years.
Charlie and I, who've been around for more than 50 years here, we've got some kind of, not an official count, but, you know, there was a lot more vacant space, and there was a lot more undeveloped area
Right.
than there is now. A lot less now.
Right.
So, yeah, I remember a former fire chief talking about, you know, why he needs more stuff and why he needs more people. And somebody questioned, well, heck, we got the same population we had 30 years ago. He says, yeah, but we got like twice as many dwelling units that I've got to protect. And I've got more older people that have medical calls.
No, it makes sense between the seasonal population
Yep.
growing and people living. The majority of your households are 1- and 2-person households.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I'd like to
takes more
spend,
houses.
I'd like to spend a little bit more time focused on the year-round resident population. We can address the summertime people, you know, as a secondary thing, but, you know, if they're not here all the time, they don't have kids in the school, they don't work here, they don't vote here, they don't register their car here, you know, we can add that in, but if we could focus in on like the year-round domicile people, then that's the way we would probably deal with what kind of housing do we want to build to get more of those people on, and how much that might alleviate some of the homelessness if we have more rental stock.
Right.
my concern with some of what you're saying Gary, is we have an aging population, and if we spend our focus too heavily on that, we're really missing the opportunity to think about how do we bring a younger population in here.
Well, I think that's what we're gonna do.
Right.
I'm thinking about, what do we have for year-round residents? How many more year-round residents can we accommodate? And how would we do that? Where would they live? Where would they work? Kind of stuff,
And that,
you know.
the other part of this whole thing is we have a lot of property in the state, in the city that's owned by the state of New Hampshire. So that's,
Oh, you think they might sell more?
huh.
I didn't think so either.
The
have a
only one they
comment.
wanted to sell is the one that's gonna cost them money.
Yeah, that's right.
I have a comment. I think about myself, and I think, my husband works in the city, but I don't. I work remotely, right? And we then have a certain combined income that lets us live where we live. And when I think about the families that I'm friendly with in the area that I know, they're in very similar situations. They're, one of the spouses is working in, the southern part of the state, or remote, working for, something international. I mean, I think after COVID especially, there was a huge influx of that sort of a family. And so I feel like we're talking a lot about, the people that live here and how do we increase their wages so that there's housing for them. But I do think that there is, at least from my experience, and it's not as vast as yours in terms of the area, but, and when I look around and when I think even of, the 20 families that I know that are in my age range and my children's friends, they would fall into that category of not, working in this city. And they're priced out, everyone's getting, that's why Nashua is what it is, and Manchester priced out of Boston, and they just keep moving further north. And they are, and then, there's some flexibility for travel or work from home some days, and then others they're doing the hour commute south. And so, that's just a comment from
That's a
my
big comment.
experience with what I see, there is the economic disparity. I don't, obviously we're all aware of that, but, so, I think that that's happening naturally as well, which is why there's fewer homes for maybe people that actually live and work in Laconia, or the population that we would want to attract here to have the jobs that we need to support our community and,
But those people that's what I'd like, if we could find out, I don't know, is how many people live in Laconia and commute to a job, whether it's Concord, Manchester, or Boston, or wherever. But those people, they create other jobs here, and they're very important. I think of Derry or other places where so many people, Derry doesn't have a huge downtown, and many of those people commute to Boston or Manchester or Concord or whatever, which goes back to the transportation thing that
I was just gonna ask that too.
I mentioned that.
What would you think if we had a better mass transportation system? Would that be of interest to you?
No, not me personally. I think it would be nice if in the city of Laconia, there was more public transportation. When I think about young people wanting to get, I don't necessarily think about mass transit out. I think it'd be great to get to Concord maybe, but I think more locally would be nice when I think about, kids and that sort of thing. I'm probably less inclined to use public transportation.
But, the people that are in their twenties and just, a lot of them can't afford a car or don't want a car. And what was that big company that Sununu tried to get? He had it all in a bag to the southern part of the state. Do you remember? Was it Amazon?
We're trying to get Amazon.
No,
to
I
us.
think it was Amazon. Yeah,
uh,
and Amazon was, Sununu said he had a bag, and then they backed out because there was not enough people would be able to get there because of lack of public transportation. And at the time, Sununu said, oh, we'll get commuter
Distribution
rail.
hub, yeah.
Huh? Remember
It was a
that?
distribution hub.
Yeah, and he said that, we'll get commuter rail and all that stuff, but they said, we know you're not gonna, and they never came. And so, stuff like that,
It's getting a little further down the line as far as solutions, so
Yeah,
now I gotta
it's
stop
just
my,
some-
I gotta stop myself, but, we've been working with the city of Dover. And so I've been working with the city of Dover since 2008, and some of what they've done is change their zoning regulations to address some of what you were saying about trying to keep character while accommodating density and all that. But I've also in that time watched how their transportation links have changed, right? They have the C&J, a lot of people taking the bus to Boston, they have the train, they're fortunate to have that. And a lot of people are choosing to be there, whether they're downsizing or they're young professionals or their families. There's a variety of reasons why people are choosing to live in Dover. All of them kind of feel the same, like they're these distinct neighborhoods. They love their neighborhood, they love their section of the city. But there's definitely some lessons learned that I think might apply to Laconia. And we can try to bring some of those forward, and we could even, engage the staff there and trying to learn a little bit about what's happened, what's been successful and why. You're gonna be different, you have your own identity, which you wanna keep, and that you should. And I think Dover's in the same boat, they're trying to stick out within the seacoast and keep their identity.
I don't mean to monopolize the discussions here, but
So we talked about, preserving the charm of Laconia as it grows, and I think historic preservation is an important part of that. I think we need to identify those areas of the city that are currently well-preserved and make sure that they continue to be preserved. And I think, we have historic districts now, but I don't think there's any real teeth to the regulations. So I think.
that is correct.
So I think as part of master planning and rezoning, I think we really need to take a look at historic districts and what are our ordinances that relate to historic districts?
Related to that, I could use a little history lesson for some of you that have been here. So you're a community that was impacted by urban renewal.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm probably, you could use the term devastated.
Badly.
And
Badly.
primarily the downtown where we are right now, right?
That's the only, that was the only impact,
Okay.
downtown.
we should do the big one.
Devastated.
Well, the two trends that I've seen in the past 50 or 60 years is the big change in downtown changed, the traffic flow flowed a little bit differently, but I mean, they were trying to compete with the migration to malls to go shopping, and so they said, well, we'll have a mall downtown. And the original plan was to cover it. It's like, oh, that's a brilliant idea. So the area that used to drive through, that became a pedestrian mall, and there were no pedestrians. The other thing that the trend that's I've seen is Union Avenue. From the corner here all the way up to the Guilford line, it's
Yep.
like one thing after another, and there were some businesses there, but there were homes and apartment buildings in between, and now every time a building comes down, it's like another mega store,
Or
another.
parking lot.
Well, that's true too. Yeah, parking lots. Well, we can look at our parking regs and say, you don't have to have any parking off-street. If you wanna build something there.
Can you give an example of that? Can you give an example
Oh,
of what you
gosh.
mean?
The car dealerships are a
Car
perfect
dealership
example.
and the
Oh,
department
like,
store.
okay.
Well, that's the most recent example, but I mean, there's tons all the way up. Expansion of the Chevrolet dealership, on both sides of the street. I mean, Cumberland Farms built where Canton's had that stuff on the west side of Union Avenue, they took down buildings for a Cumberland Farms store to move from Union Avenue near Busy Corner to there before they moved back down to Court Street. So that's kind of moved around, but it's displaced other things here and there.
Yeah, you go up by where the Dairy Queen is, just south of the Dairy Queen, used to be all residential houses.
Yeah,
That's all commercial,
that's true,
right,
that's
Um,
true.
all the
So
way
they
down
took
to
out
the
the
hardware
houses?
store.
Oh, yeah, houses are gone. Well, one of the most recent ones was across from Maroon Marine.
Exactly.
There was a house there, and that got knocked down, and now they're building condos there.
So it's evolved into your commercial strip, like right through the middle of the city.
It's sprawl.
Yeah.
And it's not pretty either.
It's a mini Linway.
Yeah, I think I'm on Route 1 in Saugus for sometimes.
Sure. I don't wanna cut off the conversation, but I wanna be sensitive to the time, and if I keep you here past 7:30.
You are on
Rob's-
the clock, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
But yeah, but if I keep you past 7:30, Rob doesn't get to go home.
One other thing that I think we need to
Please.
also put out there, and that is, we've got the development of the state school property coming in. And the on the website for the city planning offices are the reports that have been submitted already on that. And if you haven't had a chance to look at those, you should look at those, because there really has some interesting information. And some heavy-duty analyses of what some of the costs we might be facing for part of that development. And I think that's important for our overall understanding of, where things are going. So I think that would be, it will be the area of development for the next 10 years that has the potential to have a substantial change on the dynamic of Laconia in many ways. And I think that's important that we consider what that change might be and how we address it.
If I could just add to that, I also think it's important, I think the state school is a great project. However, I feel like we need to find a way to preserve what is our downtown. I think there's a lot of businesses downtown and a lot of residents that are fearful that the development of the state school project is going to become the downtown. So I feel we need to find a way to make sure that we protect what we have right now.
Steve, you've been working in Dover?
Yes.
What's that development way down Dover Point Road where Patty's Restaurant is?
It's called Point Place.
Yeah, I've been through there, and it's like a mix of different housing, and so I'm wondering if the state school might be something in that realm of
Yes.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I try not to talk about Dover too much, but I think there's something to be learned from there where they did actually focus first on the central business district, and they encouraged density in the mix of uses, and they built out a lot of it, and they redeveloped some of the lesser used sites. And now the waterfront's being done as well, which is.
Oh, on the river?
Yeah, which has been like 30 years they've been trying to get that to happen. They've been so successful there that now they're going out, like you're seeing the success of, the Weirs in Lakeport and this new development at the state school, and you may have the opportunity now to look in to your downtown. The development that you're talking about started with some single-family homes. And
In the backside?
yeah, totally in the back, neighborhoods. And then we just actually took members from the Barrington Planning Board there on Tuesday to see a bunch of different housing types that were done, and then we went to look at Point Place. And Point Place is set up with an overlay district, and it's basically a main street. They're trying to create another village, another node of development. It's been successful now. Initially, I think they had a lot of trouble getting businesses to locate there.
On those storefronts?
Yeah, it's just a little bit off the main road, and there weren't enough people within walking distance. Now it's five, I think mostly 5-story buildings above the shop fronts, and then
Are those
townhouses.
offices and apartments up there, or just
Mostly
residential?
apartments and now condos as well.
Okay.
So they get rental and for sale mixed into the development. You've got retail on the first floor, you've got townhomes and single family behind. And so there is a big kind of catchment area, and it has, because of some of the restaurants, become a destination. It's become another little downtown that people go to.
One thing Dover has going for it is more physical space. We don't have as much space.
It's very wet here,
Yeah.
a lot of water.
There is a lot of water, and we're not gonna develop the water. We're not gonna be
No,
over
no.
the water.
No, it's one of the
So
wonderful
we
things.
get the river, we get the lakes. So when I think about so many communities in the state, and I see their geographic boundaries, I said, we must have the teeniest, tiniest ground space of any place in the state. The city of Concord is just huge.
It is, yeah.
I had-
We're working in Lincoln.
I'm
and
driving out in a rural
most of
area, and
Lincoln
it's
is
still
the
the city of
national forest.
Concord.
So they're crammed into one corner.
Yeah.
One thing I want to mention is, if we want to focus on downtown and make sure that that continues to grow and remains like the hub of the city. I know Charlie loves it when I mention this, but we got to address the parking situation. Because, they're going to build Laconia Village, and there's going to be,
Stop saying village, Laconia Village. No, you weren't there, but we talked about that at the planning board when they gave their conceptual. And the gentleman stood right over there and said, he agreed with me that Laconia Village was probably not the best term because we don't want to distract from downtown
Sure.
Laconia. I don't want people saying, which Laconia do you live in? Are you in
Okay.
Laconia Village, which is apparently another city up the street? So,
Well, when they develop the state school property,
thank
you can, you could be sure that it's gonna be easy to park there. Right? And when it comes to a choice, you get in your car and it's a choice to, oh, do I wanna go downtown and try to find a parking spot? Or do I drive over there
Eric, do
an
you,
extra 5 minutes away?
do you have trouble finding a place to park in downtown Laconia?
Every day,
I'm in Laconia downtown every day, and I never have a problem parking.
all the time.
I don't
I
know
just
where
wanna get a
you're
cup of
looking.
coffee. It takes me 20 minutes to get a cup of coffee,
Oh.
cause I gotta park 3 blocks away.
I've had an office on Main Street for 22 years,
I
and
don't know
I've
that
never had a
experience.
problem parking.
Yeah,
the difference is you think 3 blocks is 20 miles. And for most people,
man, come
for most people, a parking spot within 3 blocks where you're going is a win situation.
I'm busy sometimes, all right? You know, sometimes the closest parking spot I can get to downtown is my driveway.
Jennifer has to.
Well, no, I think that, well, to your point, I think the way you preserve downtown is by continuing to invest in it, right? I mean, to the point, if this other place is more desirable, then people are gonna go there. And I feel like, I know I've been here 10 years, and there's a lot more to offer in downtown, but it still has a very long way to go. And I think that your points about downtown and the document highlight some of the areas that are still really big opportunities down here. There's a long way to go for downtown Laconia. And I think that, you know, the way that you're gonna preserve that is by solving a parking situation for people that are experiencing that, and also continuing to make it a place where people wanna come, because, that it's a deterrent, the housing on the corner there with people on the stoop, but the other place that's vacant, the tattoo parlors, the,
Secondhand shop?
secondhand shop, we have our little nooks and crannies that are really lovely, but there's a lot more opportunity, from my perspective, there that will keep people wanting to come down. That's just a comment. I feel like when someone talk about Laconia, downtown Laconia, like, yay, we did it, but I don't know if anyone else feels that way,
Right.
but I don't.
I do. I think it's a great observation. I'm just wondering, how do we make that change? I mean, nothing personal, Charlie, but we've got
Well, be careful.
five or six different stores downtown that are doing pretty much the same thing.
But, well, no, I would strongly disagree with you on that, obviously, but
Okay, well,
go
we
ahead,
can-
continue.
You can disagree with me.
No, no.
And that's fine. But I think what I'm wondering is, how can we change that setup? How do we get people to be interested in something else? What would be critical to that? Would it be more housing, more people living down there in the neighborhood? That would perhaps bring a different mix of buyers to things? Or bringing in some other, Bank of New Hampshire has brought their wealth management group up from Concord to here, Laconia. Would that type of a development
Well,
happen?
how are the decisions made about, it sounds like it's private ownership of the buildings, and then there's someone who wants to rent the space, and boom, go for it, tattoo parlor. So I don't really know. I don't really know how this group or zoning planning, I don't know who, I'm sorry, my ignorance, I don't know who decides that, but, I think that it's, that's the challenge with these, and I think that's a challenge with some of the ownership of the buildings. I made the comment before that, I've heard and that, some of the owners are maybe out of state, they're not investing in the building. It is a deterrent for a business to want to stay and thrive. Obviously, some of the buildings are doing better than others, but, some of the tenants in the buildings are doing better than others, but, so I think that that's a challenge. But I don't, I don't know how we overcome that.
I think it's the city's job to create the environment, to create the opportunity for the business to
Yeah.
thrive, and then the free market has to determine which
Right,
businesses.
the rent.
Yeah,
It's
Sort of
all about
thrive.
the rent.
rent.
So if you can't if you can't get somebody to rent your place at this level, you drop your rent.
Right.
And you keep dropping till you get somebody, and therefore, that's the business you get.
That's the business you get.
That's the
correct.
tattoo parlor.
And you're not gonna
What's wrong
solve
with
it.
the tattoo part?
Well, I don't know.
There's nothing wrong with tattoo.
I mean, I don't have any
You- I think
tattoos,
you've
but
got
it's
three-
kind of the
there's
demographic
three in
of
a
the
very
city.
small location, there's 4 barber shops.
Right.
And they're all busy.
I get that, oh, believe me, I get, well, one of them's not, cause the guy died.
I don't know what that is, but I just.
But it still says barber shop on it.
I'm thinking about
Anyway,
the
hey,
one-
Rob, do you need a gavel?
Maybe
Get
we
you.
should go over that
No,
space.
you guys are, this is helpful,
Double dip.
like, there's a lot that you're saying tonight that's informing, it's in line with the questions and the comments that we're having as a team. It's informing how we're learning about what's going on here. You're not gonna solve all the problems of downtown tonight, but what I can tell you is the master plan and some of the stuff that Eric's team has already looked at. It's gonna talk about how you're recruiting businesses to Laconia, into different parts of Laconia, how you zone, like as you're reworking your zoning, how you think about the zoning and the density and the housing mix for the downtown and how aggressive you wanna get at encouraging redevelopment in this area where you have infrastructure is gonna be part of the conversation. And maybe not allowing housing development to spread to other parts of the community that it hasn't already gone to. Really trying to focus it where you wanna see the activity happen. And so all this will get kind of talked about, and we'll have questions for you, we'll have questions for the public, and we'll continue to talk about this over the next 10 or 12 months.
Whose job is it to recruit businesses to come into the area?
Often, a city will have a staff person.
We have an economic development person.
How long has that position been filled? 2 years?
Less than a year.
But you
Yeah.
still had the,
It's brand
Bell
new.
Lab.
I was overjoyed when that came about. It's
Right.
like, we've been talking about this for 40 years.
Yeah,
And
marketing a
finally-
city is a big
Finally, we had
job.
somebody to do
Well, we
that.
had somebody.
We did?
We did. We had Steve Griffin, who was
Who's
here.
Steve Griffin? I don't
He
remember
he
him.
was our economic development person,
Okay,
and we were working on
okay,
getting the theater owned by the city and
Okay.
building a new one.
yeah.
And Belknap County Economic Development was set up, and they hired Eliza to be their director, and the city council at the time said, well, now, we don't need our economic development person, we've got the county.
Yeah, because we don't
And
want to
they-
pay for that.
And they fired Steve.
Sure, and somebody that's doing the county isn't going to be as focused in downtown
Yeah.
Laconia, are they?
But now you have
So
a city
we
staff
get what we
person.
pay
We
for.
do.
Yes, we
Right.
do.
Correct.
But she's new, and that's great.
Right.
so two things, I don't want them to go out of my mind, cause it happens often. When you're talking about the downtown, you people that come down here every day, or work here every day, or have worked here every day, you know what's here. And you're very familiar with it, and you know the ins and outs, and you know the people that are in those businesses. That's a very small population as compared to the rest of the city.
Right.
So I think that goes back to the marketing of what is here,
Right.
you know, what is available. The other question I have for you relative to Dover, and I have no idea, other than, you know, both my daughters went to UNH, and I know we would go to Dover. And I don't know how much of the proximity of the city of Dover and what they do to attract the kids while they're in college, and how many of those kids, they're not kids, they're young adults. How many of those individuals stay in the area because of what they're familiar with, because they spent 4 or 5 years, you know, just across the border in Durham. And, you know, they like the vibe of Dover, and it's a quick quote-unquote run over to Portsmouth, what they've got there. Is there an opportunity to look at the population up at Plymouth State, or obviously the community college?
Yeah.
To engage them while they're in school to come into the city and see what we have.
Well, they do. At least in one of the 4 stores that are all the same in the city, they come to my store. And I only know that because I talk to everybody that comes into my store. And the first question I ask is, have you been here before, and you know, where are you from? And I get a lot of Plymouth students that come down here, and they come in carrying packages from the record store up the street. They come in carrying cups of coffee from Wayfair over here, so they're obviously walking around. And who can blame them for coming to Laconia? We're the next big city.
Oh, I agree,
coming down
but how do
from Plymouth.
we increase that so that not just coming here, that they stay here? That they get out of school and they come here.
Well, with jobs, obviously,
Well, that's right.
or a way to get to a job someplace else.
My son graduated from Plymouth last year, you know, he lives with me. Not sure for how much longer, because he graduated in biology. There's no jobs for him around here. It's the way it goes. I think a lot of people that age in this area, they go to school and they don't come back.
The
Because
state of New Hampshire Fish and Game Department has biologist openings. Look at that website.
Or hopefully.
Or let him move away,
Well, no, that's.
Ultimately, that's what he wants.
unless he can't afford
he
it.
doesn't want to live
Eric
anywhere
wants him
else.
out of the house.
That's the whole problem.
I think, John, I think you're right about Dover and the connection to UNH. I'm sure it has a big impact. I do think Plymouth State grad who came back to New Hampshire, like, I
Yeah.
think we do get some of that, and I know
Think it happens.
from.
She was from Rhode Island. so
Exactly.
There is a caveat there.
I know.
Exactly.
I'm also an escapee from Rhode Island.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
Who
Get
fed
us
this
out.
guy?
So, I think the community college also plays a role, and part of it is, I think if you're successful doing all the things that you want to do through the master, I mean, the master plan's not going to solve every problem that's ever come to any community, right? But it's going to allow you to say, this is the direction we're moving together, so with your theme, forward together, and here are the things that are within the scope of what we can do related to land use and infrastructure. And we're welcoming other partners in to be part of the success of the city. And we're going to do it in a way that's going to preserve the things that we can tell you are unique about us. And some of them are the wet places that are wonderful and that draw people to the community. And some are the historic character and things that you're in fear of losing. There will be change, but the master plan is a way to say, well, if we're going to change, this is how we'd like to change. And it's not going to address everything in the document, but it's going to set you on that path. So I feel good about it. I think you're all in alignment with some of the issues and some of the opportunities, and we have time to figure it out. And then you'll have 15 years to implement it. At which point, Crystal will be happy to come back and do the next one. So what I wanted to do in the interest of time is just give you an update on existing conditions. A lot of what you've said has touched on things I was gonna ask, so this has been really helpful. Just as a reminder of what we're doing as far as topics for the master plan and what we're focused on for this existing conditions work we're doing right now. We're doing land use, transportation, housing, economy, and community facilities was the last one that we added. 4 of those sections have been rough drafted, and we've gone through them quickly with the team and flagged things that were there gaps and where we thought information maybe needed to go deeper. And they've done the same. They've looked at each other's things. Community facilities, as you said, there's a day coming up with department heads that's been set up by Tyler and Rob. And Eric Halverson will be here. He'll meet with each department head. He has questions. He does this for us a lot. He's really good at it. He'll get an understanding of what their department needs are, how it relates to the CIP, how it informs infrastructure. So that's going to be really important. And he'll have that drafted for us before we meet with you guys for a work session in December. One of the things that we're trying to do as these drafts come together is flag data points that are of interest that tell a story about who Laconia is in 2025, 2026. So it's back to the question about housing, types of housing, price of housing, location of housing, infrastructure, where it is, capacity issues, limitations, transportation, both the structure of the infrastructure, but also the lack of transit. So it's going to be, issues and opportunities kind of throughout. And what we're going to do is summarize it into, well, what are the key issues? And at this point, these top 5 topics are still in silos. What we just started to do at our meeting on Monday was have RKG start to take the transportation stuff from the beta group and their land use information and economic information and start to look across those silos. And so they're gonna do some mapping and try to come with some visuals that we'll run by the staff first to not embarrass ourselves, and make sure that they think it makes sense and that we're presenting something that is gonna be useful to all of you. But you'll start to see that in January. And what we're trying to understand is, if you have something like Union Avenue, what are the opportunities for development there? What are the issues with the pattern as it stands now, as far as like maybe a lack of tax revenue that it's creating, high infrastructure need, like those kinds of things. So Eric will look at that from a numbers perspective. And then we'll look at the 3 existing development areas, and the 4th, potential one that's out there at the state school, whatever it gets called. And the balance of land, which is both lower density development and conservation land and shorelines that should be protected and those pieces. So we're going through that process now. What you'll see at the beginning of January, our 2026 holiday gift to you, will be a draft. And the draft will be set up kind of at 3 levels of detail. So if you don't do your homework before you're with us on January 20th, at least read the first 2 or 3 pages, because that'll give you an overview of what we learned and kind of what we see is going on in Laconia. You will ultimately tell us if we get it right. And you will also tell us if we need to go a little deeper in some of these areas, and we have the ability to do that. The second level of detail will be for each of the topics will be like a profile page. And that's gonna be more broadly of interest to the public. It'll be colorful, it'll have infographics, it'll pull out the key findings for transportation, community facilities, onward. And then it'll have all the rest of the data, the other 12 to 15 pages of tables and information that we may wanna pull from later on, but most people won't wanna read. It'll be there. So for transparency's sake, they can see what the work and the sources that were used. So Crystal's had them for each of the topics provide all the sources they used, all their key findings so far, all that. And so all that will come into this draft report. You'll get to see it first. We'll take your feedback. We'll answer questions. We'll go back and get additional information if needed. And we'll bring a new version back to you in February. But when you're comfortable with it, we'd like to be able to then share it with the public. We'll keep it as a draft till the end. And ultimately, that becomes the appendix of your master plan. We no longer have to stay in those silos after the existing conditions. Okay, we have an understanding of what we know and what we don't know. And then you can think more creatively. And the rest of the plan, after we've heard from the public, it could be organized around these places. It could be organized around different types of land use. We'll show you examples from other communities. We're just finishing Meredith, and it has, do you remember how many themes it has? I think it's like 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think it's
And we're just finishing Milford's, and it has 5 distinct themes. And they're around like economy, quality of life, infrastructure, actually how you implement the plan. There's a big, it's becoming an increasing theme, is like how do you implement it? And there may be different people around the table than all of you are initiating it, but there might be other people who like checklists and chasing people to make sure stuff gets done. So that's just a little bit to give you a sense of like what we're doing between now and January 1st, what you're gonna see in early January as a draft, and that you're gonna be the ones telling us when it's good enough. And then we're gonna continue to go to phase 2 and start to reach out to people and ask them questions about the future of Laconia. And we'll use that as a way to both educate and engage the public.
Ask a couple questions.
Please.
You mentioned homework.
Yeah.
Do you have something in mind specifically for us for homework between now and January?
I don't have anything in mind between now and January. I think if you do, as John did, if you reflect on things that you think are important, you could feed them to us through Rob and Tyler. That's always helpful. I mean, you're a group that stepped up to be part of this effort, so we want to learn from you. But it will start at the beginning of January. Crystal might have a couple questions for you about outreach and engagement, which we're about to go to, that could lead to homework. But mostly just prepare to put your reading glasses on in January.
The other question I had is the implementation.
Yes.
I practiced law for about 50 years, and most of that practice was real estate development, helping zoning, planning, all of those issues. And every town I would go into, one of the first things I would do would be to look for their master plan and see what it had to say. But I would get to the board meetings, and I don't think there was more than 1 or 2 cases in which the board members had any clue that there was a master plan, let alone what was in it. And so I guess my question is, when we're talking about implementation, how do we also get that information out to the board members, the people that are going to be using, hopefully, that master plan? And I guess that's more of a question for you and Tyler than it is for Steve. But
Well, Steve can help. We will suggest to you that you have it as a pretty strong section of your plan, and we'll kind of shape it with all of you and with the staff. It's something that has changed a lot in New Hampshire, I would say even in the last 10 years, where communities have recognized that there's been an issue with implementation. Even if things have been happening, there hasn't been very good tracking of it. So staff change, planning board members change, nobody knows if that, they have to chase the zoning and see like, did that change ever happen? So it's pretty easy to keep these things organized and to keep them online where there's one place where you say, yeah, this is being worked on, or this is no longer relevant. This was addressed by this other project. So we can share that with you.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions about the project overall or where we are with the work that we're doing in between these meetings? Or do we want to just move on to an update on it, outreach and engagement?
I mean, right now you're talking about meeting monthly. And I know we've talked about sometimes maybe there ought to be a more frequent meeting of at least this committee, maybe without you, just to review some of the stuff that's been presented. I don't know what you think about that, but.
I think we're open to the discussion. I just don't, my fear is, right now I only have 5 staff members,
Right.
and we chair a lot of boards. Or we don't necessarily chair, but we manage 11 different committees and or boards. And
So it's a time management issue.
so,
Is that what it is, Rob?
so with that, and we're doing a lot of things, and the planning department has never been as busy as what we have been. And so I'm just fearful of overextending ourselves.
All right.
I am not opposed if the committee would like to meet more frequently just to discuss the read materials that is discussed in preparation for a forthcoming meeting, but I also don't want to overextend staff.
Why don't we wait and see what comes in January?
Yep.
I think that's fair. And also, I think, as Crystal's about to share, there are other ways you can help us. If you want to put more time in, helping get the word out about the initiative and helping find ways to engage a broader population of people. It sounds like you're working with some of the homeless folks in the community. The community people that are working there. That's a population it's really hard to engage with and to build trust with. And so if you have those folks or folks from the schools and other places that you have strong connections, that would help us a lot.
Perfect. Okay.
That would help us a lot.
I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but I agree. I think we do need to meet more than once a month. Maybe just to use their time more effectively. I think it would help if we had time to discuss and review so that we're not wasting their time and we have a cohesive list of suggestions when we do meet.
Yeah, it's not that I have all time in the world
Right.
either as well, so.
Right, but I'd like us to get as much as we can out of this process, and even if it's, we meet twice a month, and then the next month we meet once, and then twice, or something like that,
Yeah.
I think throwing in a few
Well, we
additional meetings would probably be helpful.
We'll see what we can do. I think it's important that we as a group discuss some of these issues among ourselves to get a better feel for what's happening and just coming in and hearing the presentation, just, to me, it doesn't feel like we're doing our job as fully as we could do it. That's just me.
So we could have some work sessions.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all
But
gonna
probably
be.
after we get stuff in January.
Yeah, you might want to wait till then,
Okay.
and then you
Yeah.
might call some months off, like you
Yep.
said.
Right.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we wait to our January meeting?
Correct.
And we'll look at the material that's provided, and then we can kind of game plan whether we want to do a work session in between our, whatever
Right.
monthly schedule we get ourselves on.
That would be great. I think if we just keep that as a possibility. And they're all gonna be on Zoom anyway, work sessions or not, right? I mean, they're all gonna be available to the public. as
Yeah,
soon as-
yeah, oh, no, everything for this committee is gonna be online, available to the public.
Right.
We'll notice every meeting in the paper, so
Right.
we'll get it out
Okay.
there.
I think it's YouTube, it's all right.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Zoom, YouTube.
Right.
Yeah, we've got our own YouTube channel, so we're working on getting everything
Okay,
out there.
all right.
Can we monetize that? That could be a new revenue stream.
You
This
have to make
week
this
on,
really lively.
Yes.
Gary, what you
Add
and
some
I
more?
could do in the first meeting is we'll take Eric out on parking. show them where to park.
I volunteer, sure.
We can
What we
tag
have to
team.
do, is we have to bring a
Absolutely.
cup of coffee here for Eric, so he doesn't.
Please.
It's a comedy show.
It is.
That's the hug.
If you're running a coffee shop in downtown Laconia, you want people to be able to park
No,
right in front of your business and come in.
Tell you
Just
what,
saying.
Eric, I'll give you my number. If you're coming down for
Yeah, they
coffee,
need, like,
call me.
quick
I'll go
parking
get
there or
it.
something.
And you can drive by and I'll
Don't
hand it
park
to
Words
you.
right out of my
City.
mouth.
Piece of cake.
I cannot be the only one that has a problem parking downtown.
No, I do agree. I agree with your point that like with the coffee shop, 100%. Like there's not, you know, you can always find one, but you want to be close.
Well, they could tear down the building next to it and have a little drive-through there in a parking lot.
All right, all right.
All right, I'll
Anyway,
wait till
on
the
that
end.
note, we'll move forward here.
All right, you've heard enough from Steve. It's time to hear from Crystal.
Okay, so I see this was included in our packet tonight. We just want to go over this. As discussed at last month's joint boards meeting, this outreach plan will continue to evolve and be updated throughout the process. So just reiterating some of the structure of it. It's broken into 3 parts. So 1 showing techniques for getting the word out, public participation opportunities, who might be the responsible party that could help do that said outreach, and then a potential timeline that will help us keep it moving with it. So we touched on it briefly last month. We tried to come up with just some techniques that the city could use if you're interested in. I'll try and go over them briefly, but some of them are the project webpage, which is already up, an email subscriber list, which we have it available on the project website for people to sign up for the existing Laconia links to begin capturing people's email addresses to add them to a list to keep them updated on projects and participation opportunities. Developing hard copy postcards, mailers, and posters, advertising public participation opportunities, displaying these around your community facilities, maybe some local businesses. Also working with partner organizations to promote communications and connect with specific populations. This, we have a second page, the key populations and stakeholders list that we also went over last month. I wanted to point this out because we did add to the target populations to engage the houseless population, hospital, and schools, because it came out from last month's meeting. Going back to the techniques for getting the word out, also advertisements through press releases, articles in your Laconia Daily Sun, super important, and you already got that good relationship going. Social media communications, so we are working with Robin Tyler to help the city create a planning department page, not just specific to this project, but that will be a social media face for the department. So we're underway with that, but we'll start to be able to start posting hopefully some master plan project-related things. But other than that, we really suggest utilizing existing Facebook groups that you know people are already on there and will give their feedback. And then also encouraging any of you guys that have social media that want to push it out. And then just some public participation opportunities. We have developed an online visioning feedback form, which is, it's basically a comment form. So it's on your project webpage right now. It is, so far we've received 5 comments from it. That's what I was gonna share with you today. All of them are current residents. And generally the feedback we received thus far consisted of interest in making Laconia a more walkable and welcoming community, but there are concerns about negative public perception, mostly on social media. Comments about development standards, including building height expectations in different areas, a proposal to explore innovative energy options to support long-term economic development, a reminder to review the past master plan recommendations that were not implemented, And then there was interest in meeting schedules and opportunities for participation. So to me, that said that maybe we should work like with staff to link the master plan steering committee agendas and minutes to that webpage so that people can really tie it in together and be like, oh, okay, this is everything all in one place.
So having something on the project website that sends them to the agenda center, it says like, here
Right.
for more information on upcoming meetings and past minutes.
Yeah, I see that the city already has a document center, so maybe just utilizing that and helping create the link there so people can really see it. I can definitely help you guys with that.
Document,
We do.
Um,
We do.
Yeah.
cool, all right.
Some other potential public participation opportunities could be a citywide online and hard copy survey. That way you can broadly capture feedback from people from anywhere in Laconia, whether they're residents, business owners, and also having that available hard copy. So if people wanted to respond to that but aren't really technically inclined, they still can. And typically, we would suggest having, hard copy printouts at your city hall or local
Maybe
community
the
places.
library might be
Library.
really good.
Yeah,
I feel like sometimes City Hall doesn't get a lot of foot traffic,
Yeah.
especially down to the basement.
Yeah. That topic that Crystal just touched on, the online and the in-person opportunities, we're gonna start talking with staff in January and with you all January 20th to start to put together a timeline, pick dates, pick locations for the 3 locations, the Weirs, Lakeport, and here in downtown, and then the online version is a mirror image. And we could show you what Crystal's done in other places, where all the materials that you can see an in-person thing, the posters, the maps, are digitally available with the same questions. And you could go to both. You could attend in person, and then you could participate online, or you could, egg your partner on or your business associate to participate because you didn't see them there.
And on the outreach plan, we refer to that as neighborhood and village community meetings. So those would be the in-person, and then the citywide would be the online version of that. One thing we didn't know, we wanted to get a pulse for, we're not sure if there's, not interest, but we just wanted to see if there are any upcoming events that this group might be interested in tabling at. We just wanted to throw it out there. It's another way to capture feedback, but not everyone has to do it. We just suggest it for any town we work in, town or city.
Can you explain a little bit more what you have in mind?
Yeah.
Yeah, so typically you could take the 2 vision posters. Do you
I
mind?
can give you an example. So during Pumpkin Fest, Lakes Region Planning Commission had a table for their master plan that they were doing at Pumpkin Fest, and they were handing out information and seeking input as people walked by. So I think that's kind of what
Exactly.
Yep.
we're talking about.
Is that for a regional master plan?
Yep.
that we're doing?
Yep.
Yeah, so we could provide a banner with the with the project logo, and then like Crystal said, you could use the existing visioning posters. We could set it up however you want. We would provide the materials, but you would need volunteers or staff to staff the table.
Yeah.
Don't look that way.
I can't look at him. It's gonna
Yeah,
volunteer me
that's
for every
definitely
weekend.
something for you guys to decide as a group, but.
Yeah, maybe we can brainstorm if there's any events.
Well,
That are upcoming.
29th
That are
of
coming up.
November is the Christmas event, the Saturday after
Yeah, that's true.
Thanksgiving.
That little
So
Christmas
maybe a little
market.
bit soon, but that's the first
Then
one.
Christmas Village gonna be running at the community center this
Oh,
year?
you don't want
I
this
think
in
we wanna
Christmas
push it.
Village.
Yeah, I don't, we wanna push it into Christmas.
But I think we could
Yeah,
probably
because
find
I have
some
a lot
key
of-
events that are happening around here and,
Right.
and find a good spot.
Another alternative, we were just whispering over here, another alternative that could work if the tabling is a harder thing to make work. We can do memos for you that you could put to all the land use boards, we can put them out to other boards and committees. We call them first 5-minute memos, but it's basically like, this is what's going on with Forward Together, go here for more information. The existing conditions reports out. These in-person neighborhood meetings have been scheduled, whatever, something that's of value that we wanna get out. We can help with those. And then kind of like you were talking about, Patrick, if you have the ability to go meet with groups and you need like an overview, a synthesis of something, but you're willing to go talk and they recognize you because you've been here in the city, you've been participating, that kind of outreach to where meetings are already happening is really valuable. You know, Rotary, other things.
Well, even the housing authority, getting the information to the housing authority, for example.
So if you'd rather do that, or you'd like to do that in addition to a couple tabling events, we could add that to the outreach plan.
Okay.
Because those are good strategies that are pretty
I
lightweight.
think there's some good groups we could reach out to.
Well, there are, and the library would, I'm sure, cooperate as well. Put something on at the library, yeah.
That's another tabling event that we've seen work in a couple of the cities in New Hampshire. If a staff member were to get stuck with this, or committee
your
member
overtime
were to join a staff member, sometimes they'll say, we'll be at the library at noon for a half an hour to give an update on the plan. And you might have 30 people that show up.
That's not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea. I think the library, they get a lot of foot traffic.
do.
And we could reach out to Deanne and see what days or what events she gets the most traffic on.
Yeah, I think there's a few places around the city we could potentially do that too.
So we'll brainstorm and then we can connect and,
Yeah, and you might wanna wait till you've seen the existing conditions
Yeah.
report and we're
Right.
starting to get ready to roll things out, so that you'd have more to tell. You could point them to something they can review, you can tell them about an event where they can give some feedback, you can accept some feedback. So I don't wanna waste your time and just say, someday we're gonna be doing something, it's gonna be great. See you next year.
Might even be able to put something on LERPA, Lakes Region Public Access.
Pat, I was thinking Eric could have a table at Wayfarer. I'll park your car for you. And you can use it.
There,
Really gets under your
Yeah.
skin, doesn't it?
You wouldn't be able to get there.
well, I'm not gonna make any comments on parking moving forward.
Tough crowd.
They must know you're good natured, you can handle it.
Okay.
Just teasing. You ever try double parking out front?
See, that's the
It
thing,
is a
there's plenty
city.
of parking.
If you had a UPS
It's
sticker on
fine,
his
this
car,
is too
you
far
could.
from downtown.
That's all we have.
It's not just me, it's even
All right.
Alex.
For the record, it's 7:31 and we're done.
All right.
But you might have other discussion.
Yep,
Try
so,
and stop us.
next on our agenda is the next meeting. I think we hit that during, it's January 20th.
Yep.
Can we set a same time, same place of
Yeah.
January 20th, 6 PM here?
6 PM?
Yep,
Right here.
6 PM. 6,
6.
or I'll even put it military time, 1800. All right.
1800 for the
It's not, the MLK holiday, right? It's a Tuesday, you said? It's a Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Yeah, it should be a Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, whatever the 20th of January is.
It is a Tuesday. It's the day after
Yep.
Martin Luther King Day.
Okay, good.
All right.
Oh, okay, all right.
So with that, was there any other business before?
Yeah, that's probably gonna be zoning, right? Because zoning board is supposed to be on that Monday, but it's a holiday.
Oh,
That's right.
that's a good call.
Yes,
What time
all
do
right,
they
and
meet?
that's also the.
They meet at 6:30.
The Human Relations
Um,
Committee will be meeting.
I didn't think about
day
that, yep.
At 4:30.
Could we meet before? Could we meet a little earlier?
Would people be interested in meeting?
Where that meeting's not set, I believe it could be changed to ZBA, that would be involved.
What, 4? Would you say 4 would work for the board? Would you guys be able to make 4 o'clock work that day?
Well, that would be normally the day the Human Relations
No worries.
Committee would be meeting.
So, what about, do we have anything Wednesday that week?
Well, Wednesday, the 21st.
Conservation Commission meets on Wednesday.
Of course they do.
Oh, see, that's why 11 boards and committees.
Yeah.
City
Yeah.
more,
Weird.
how do we try to get more residents on the boards instead of the same players?
Right.
I guess people have to
All right,
raise their hand, huh?
it's January 21st. There is a Conservation Commission meeting that evening.
What time is that?
That is at,
5.
that's at 5 o'clock. But they usually go about 2
2
hours.
hours.
Was Thursday that week bad, the 21st?
Thursday, there's nothing on Thursday.
I go to one of those. What do they
So-
talk about for 2 hours?
Why this week? Why are we pushing
No,
for the
we can
particular
push
week?
another
We can do
week,
another
that's fine
week.
as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we were just trying to find a standing meeting. That was
I know,
like,
that's what we were.
We didn't see the holiday thing coming.
No.
Yeah, the holiday.
The holiday
that
kind
throws
of messed us up there.
oh, I see. what
The
we
rest
were
of the
trying
months
to
will be
do.
fine.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Could we go the week prior?
Yep, we could do the 13th.
I can't.
Nope. 14th?
Yes.
14th?
Good.
All right. Going once, going twice.
14th.
It is the
6 p.m.?
14th at 6 p.m.
14th at 6 p.m.
Well, iron that out. Good thing we talked about that.
Yeah, good thing we did.
All right.
The Heritage Commission goes along because they meet that day.
We'll move them to 200B.
Yeah.
I
That'll
just
work.
happen to have all the city boards on my calendar, you know.
That's too many. All right. With that, that's our next meeting. No other business.
January 14th, 6 p.m.
January 14th, 6 p.m.
Perfect.
Final answer. All right.
Is there any other information that you have that you think it would be helpful for us to have before we meet again in January?
Yep, so we're working on updating the city's website to add in as much information as possible for the public to consume, for the boards to consume as well. We've got
several pages.
We've got several pages. We've got the state school has a page.
Yep,
Impact Fees has a page.
We're working on performance zoning.
We're gonna work on doing developmental tools that we have
Yeah.
in the zoning ordinance now.
Yeah.
So we'll
Yeah.
work on that, and that was, we just updated the housing redevelopment overlay district. We have performance zoning, we do have clusters, and that's gonna be in there as well. I think those are the 3 innovative land use controls that we
Well,
have.
there might have been a fourth one, but off the top of my head, that's what we've discussed.
That's it, but we are making a page for that. It's, we just have limited time, but
Yeah.
it's in the works.
Yep, it's in progress, it's coming.
Send an email blast to us saying this is what's happening, where to find it.
Yep, we can do that.
Absolutely.
So with that, is anybody from the public here? Do they wish to say anything?
Hey, John?
I had a few things to say, but I figured I'd let you guys know.
You know, the more input we get, the better product we're gonna have at the end.
Yeah.
It's a community project.
When you talked about when you talked about more apartments living downtown, there's already that issue with those apartments. I mean, the colonial apartments and their spaces, and it's just another
What
parking.
issues, John?
What's that?
The parking.
Parking.
Oh, parking,
right.
You know, when you live downtown and there's no overnight parking from November to April. And Eric, I just want to suggest you can use his loading zone when you want to get your coffee.
Or,
We're actually working on that because of the overnight
they could
parking
take,
situation.
or you could take the parking space across the street from my loading zone that Public Works took away, a parking space there.
I know. They just
You could
striped
use
over.
that.
There you go.
No saltiness there.
City councilors only.
No, that's not the.
So actually,
enforced
we
zone.
do have a parking study that was done. Do you remember what year that was done?
2022?
2022? I don't know if that data is outdated.
Was it
Um,
1922?
No, it was
It was
22.
outdated the moment it was written.
I don't necessarily agree with everything that was in there because they left out some valuable data.
Okay.
But we can get that
But
to
we
you,
can
so you
still
at least.
get you that.
Yeah, we could do it for $5.
The other thing, since we're talking about parking, it's gone to city council, there's been some hot tickets on it, is to develop residential units downtown, should we do parking permits, or how do we allocate parking spots downtown while still making sure that we have parking enough to attract customers for businesses and for businesses?
Yeah, I'm glad that was brought up, because
If the parking permits are mostly overnight parking, then they're going off to work somewhere, and that's when the parking gets, I mean, if this place is a ghost town at night, because there's no businesses open after
Unless
7.
the theater's going, and then it all fills up pretty good.
Yes, and that's the exception,
And-
but that's not a lot.
And I also do want to point out, so the city's in the process of selling the parking garage. So that is going to change the math downtown. And in our zoning ordinance, we have
That's a
a
done
co-
deal as of yesterday, I believe.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
So it's a done deal. So we do have a commercial core parking overlay district, and I think that's gonna be affected because there was a lot of, developments that were done within that overlay district that depended on that.
To provide the off-street parking.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So, just food for thought, just that's one of those issues that we're gonna
How
have.
many spaces are on the record for the St. Joseph's lot behind the church?
I think they actually,
120?
there's,
It's up
we
there.
will we'll find that.
We have that downstairs. I
Yeah.
can get it to you
Okay.
tomorrow.
We have the traffic study, and I think that's outlined in there, so we'll post that, to get that data out there.
I gotta follow up on the permit situation, because I had suggested that at the one council meeting. I think it was referred to a committee I'm not on.
I think it
so-
went to,
Government operations
Operations
and
Subcommittee.
ordinances.
Yeah,
They get all the fun, yeah.
yeah.
John, did you have another question?
But yeah,
You asked a good question.
I was just gonna say, wouldn't it be great to consider the parking behind St. Joseph Church that no one ever uses? That would be ideal for people who need a permit downtown. They wouldn't mind walking the short distance as long as they have a secure place for their car.
That's exactly a good point.
I mean, it's a real issue to deal with. It
Glad I
definitely is a
came.
limitation, but there are a million ways to address it, and downtowns are doing it and
Yeah.
being successful, so.
I'm sure there's a solution out there.
Probably a variety of them
Yeah.
that will be needed, yeah.
That's right.
For 50 years, we've talked about parking downtown, and there's 6 million solutions, but none of them have ever been adopted.
And it depends on who you talk to, whether there's a parking problem
Exactly.
or there's not a parking problem.
The
It's
difference
very-
now is
I think
we're,
we
we're
saw
trying
that
to make it an
tonight.
attractive area for people to develop housing downtown.
Yeah.
And if we don't have a plan
Right.
on what to do with people that are gonna rent an apartment down there,
Well,
we're not doing our job, right? I mean,
permits, permits are the best.
And the
I
market
agree.
will
And
provide, they'll provide the parking. They will.
It will.
Yes, it will.
On that, I'm not gonna drag this on too much. Anything else?
We need a motion to adjourn.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All right.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Thank you for
All in
coming,
favor?
Counselor-elect.